Hi, and welcome to this episode of Nothing Ventured, Nothing Game, where we will be reviewing one of my favorite tabletop role-playing games, BattleSauce. So stick around and check out our review. They make playing cards, and they're free. They're actually really cool. We bought every set of them, and they're really, really fun and really cool. We get to play with them every so often when we're not playing BattleSauce, like Gin Rummy or poker.
52 pickup.
52 pickup. There you go. Explosions. Thanks for waiting around. So, like I said, we'll be doing a review of one of my favorite games, BattleSauce. And I'm joined by Steve.
Yep.
And Steve's here basically to break down the rules and whatever I get wrong. Because as a GM, I actually don't learn the rules. I just have Steve play with me and yell at me whenever I'm doing something wrong. It's the easiest way to do it. The rules lawyers, you should have them at every game. Make the game move so much faster.
It's one of those specialized magic items.
Yeah, exactly. But back to BattleSauce. So BattleSauce was created by designer Mike Startzman. And I probably said his name really wrong. So Steve, if you could put his name up somewhere on the screen so we could give him credit, and check our link below. Below, we're going to link all their stuff. You could go there. It's not going to break the bank. Bunch of PDFs. It's being updated. It's not 100%, but it's like 98%, right? Like, so you could buy this, play it right away. So BattleSauce. First thing that comes to mind, BattleSauce, right? Like in your head, what are we talking about? Well, BattleSauce is basically a tabletop role-playing game, and you need only a few things to play. You need a handful of D20s, and let's not lie, we all have some. You need a handful of D6s. I know you have them. Don't lie to yourself. And a deck of playing cards, 52 playing cards.
Yep. Deck of playing cards.
Back it up a little bit. There you go. Deck of playing cards.
Playing cards.
Boom. Deck of playing
You
cards.
You actually need a deck of 54 playing cards, and that will become important later.
Yes, 54 playing cards. On the BattleSauce website, actually, they make playing cards, and they're free. They're actually really cool. We bought every set of them, and they're really, really fun and really cool. We get to play with them every so often when we're not playing BattleSauce, like Gin Rummy or poker.
52 pickup.
52 pickup. There you go. Explosions. So BattleSauce. What is BattleSauce? BattleSauce is, I feel personally, and this isn't so much a review as my opinion, it's one of the most freeing experiences I've ever had GMing a tabletop role-playing game. There are rules, but it's a very rules-light system. It's not completely narrative-driven.
It's like a role-playing game and a board game had a baby, and that came out to be BattleSauce.
Yeah, exactly. It's very fun. And when we actually got to talk to Mike, we spoke to them, and they described their thought process of how like they were inspired by their children. And a lot of the times people playing this, they play it with younger children because younger children love how interesting it is, because character creation and how you build your character, you literally choose a special ability for your character at level 1, and that special ability just keeps growing, and you build your character out. And we'll get into character creation. So BattleSauce, for the most part, what it is, general tabletop role-playing game. There's fantasy, cyberpunk, 8-bit video game concept is built into this. It's really cool. It's kind of like they took a bunch of different genres, mixed them together, and came out with a really fun system to just sit down and play with your friends. We play this whenever we're stressed out from I get GM burnt out, or we're just overly stressed and no one wants to sit down to like a heavy campaign. BattleSauce is like your every 80s cartoon adventure. So you got like He-Man and She-Ra and Ninja Turtles, and that's kind of the feel you get. It's like, oh, let's be heroes, but like when we were kids. Like that love of being a hero.
Yeah.
And that's BattleSauce. So that's enough of me rambling about BattleSauce. Let's kind of jump into the most fun, and that is character creation. So character creation, you basically choose a class, and every class has a negative to it. So my favorite and Steve's favorite is the Barbarian. So the Barbarian forgot to do leg day, and whenever there's a trap sprung, because the Barbarian has such weak little legs, they take a negative penalty to traps and having to like jump over traps and stuff like that. They got itty bitty tiny legs, which I think is hysterical. But when they swing, they just unload damage. They roll like 2d20 damage. That's what damage is. 2d20. It's not like d6s. You got like 2d20s is like sometimes some of the weapons that you can like wield as a barbarian, and it's a lot of fun.
Right now, the system breaks down each classes into 5 levels.
Mm-hmm.
But when we had discussion with Mike, and you can find that, and I'll link our podcast somewhere here. We had an interview with him, and he basically said, "Look, if you want to make more levels, make more levels. It's not a very hard system to adjust to your liking." So every character obviously has an ability at level 1. The barbarian's ability at level 1 is to carry 2 two-handed weapons. They just do damage.
Yeah. And they just open up on damage. And again, it's a very free-form expressionist game. So very rules light, like we said. And building your character, you literally just go, I'm a barbarian. And that is your character. You choose your name, your identity,
your pec size, and how big your muscles are. And then you got itty bitty tiny legs, which I think is hysterical. And that's it. And it was an amazing class. Another really interesting class is the were thing. And that's literally its name. You are a were something, and you turn into that creature. So in the book, they have a were squid. I believe is his son's character.
Yes, that was his son's character, was the were squid, and they turn into the squid, and then they got tentacly arms. I actually like playing this, and it's a great way to introduce new people into tabletop role playing, because you hook them with this fun game, and then you bring out like the heavy rule set systems like D&D 5e and stuff like that. And then you're like, yeah, this is, but does it stand on its own? That's my question here. Like now you're listening to this and you're like, Jared, you've rambled about this game, but does it stand on its own? And yes, you should go out and purchase it. Like I said, it's all PDFs.
Funny enough, the core rulebook right now is actually free on their website.
Yeah,
you can always just take a look at it and check it out. And then always, if you want to pick up some stuff off their website, then it's
you should totally
pick
do
up
that.
An adventure, and everything that they make is themed food wise, because there's things like, ingredients are things that make up an adventure. An adventure is a recipe. And, the game is called BattleSauce. It's a very tongue-in-cheek humor that goes along with it, but it's nothing that's like adult-themed only. Everything is like kid-friendly.
Yeah, this is like the game.
Monsters have really tongue-in-cheek names, some of them.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of monsters, that is also combat. Let's get into combat. So character creation, level 1 to 5, right? And you build your own character. It's very cool. It's a very interesting system, very free form with building characters. Secondly, combat. How does combat work, Steve? Well, combat is done through playing 21. That's why you need a deck of playing cards. So when you roll initiative, right, everyone's given a card, and depending on the suit, that is how you could tell where you go in the initiative order. Then, and this is the super easy part, Steve, what would you like to do? I'd like to attack. Okay, we play 21. Or when we spoke to Mike in their interview, Mike said like they were playing with some young children, and there was 21 is a lot of math. For adults to play, and then some younger children. So they just played war. So highest card won. So if you rolled like a queen and the monster rolled a 5, you hit the monster. And then as a barbarian wielding 2 giant, a fork and a spoon, or a spork and a knife, that'd be my barbarian, spork and knife. And they're just you roll your dice to deal damage, and that's it. And that's how fast combat works, and how rules light this is.
And also, movement is also done with cards too. And
exactly.
The system where it comes down to movement and battling, it's a very interesting system. There's one of the reasons why they picked playing cards, because obviously the DM is going to have the map, and obviously all the players are going to see the map, but the DM is going to have their own version of the map.
And certain squares are going to be white squares, and certain squares are going to be black squares. Now, black squares are dangerous.
Yeah, it's like a checkerboard.
Yeah, so basically similar to a chessboard. So depending on which card you use for movement, this can come. Yeah, this is a common screen. You know, will determine whether it's a dangerous square or not a dangerous square. Because you can even find dangerous stuff on a white square, but it's much harder to find. So depending on if you pull a face card, you're going to find an item. A face card. There we go. If you pull a face card, you're going to find an item no matter what square you land on. But depending on if you land on a safe square with a red suit or a safe square with a black suit, that will determine. Sometimes you have to draw twice because black cards are tending more dangerous than the white cards. You know, there's a whole system that gives you an easy chart to figure it out. But it's a really interesting way of using cards. And also, as you use cards for movement, they get taken out of the deck and into a discard pile, and you can't look through the discard pile. So you may come up to a fight, and then maybe all the good cards have been taken because people use them for movement or other abilities. And now you're like, oh, I don't know if I could beat this thing because there may be a whole bunch of low cards in the deck.
Yeah. And that's how combat works. It's you're either playing 21 and there's all low cards, or you're playing war and there's all low cards, and you're like, oh man, I made a poor choice. And that's BattleSauce in its entirety, right? So you build your character, super simple. You there's not much to it. You could be any race. Like, races have no statistical bearing on your class. So if you're playing this game and one of my favorite TV shows, Adventure Time. If I wanted to play BattleSauce in the Adventure Time universe, they're not trademarked, but Adventure Time non-trademarked universe, right? But we're doing it at home, so I'm not doing this live or no way to get caught, right? And I want to play a candy person, right? Like from the Candy Kingdom. I can play a candy person. It doesn't matter. And then my Steve could play a dog like Jake. And that's it. And we could play that. We could play in the Adventure Time universe. And that is the cool thing of it. Or we could play in a home, and it lends to homebrew. And that's what I really like about this system is you can homebrew an entire universe. And there is lore. Actually, the cool thing about this, so BattleSauce has its own history, right? And its own universe. So if you're playing in the medieval fantasy, right? Like your general, like Willow universe, that is the early history of the BattleSauce universe. And if you're playing in the cyberpunk universe, that's the future of that universe. So there is a history here, and there's lore that you could build on, but they're still building that lore out. So, if you want to grab this tomorrow, which I highly suggest you do, because again, it's free. You could just grab it and it's free. And let's say,
and some of the adventures not even that much money either. And then there's other classes like Chef, where you use ingredients to cast magic spells.
Yeah.
You use there's Manimal or Womanimal, where it's basically like Teen Wolf, and you get special abilities. Yeah. There's War Witch, which is the only person who can use magic and is proficient with weapons, where they have limitations on their magic.
Yes.
And then I think on their website they have released a couple extra classes. That's for the fantasy side. And then as they progress through different eras, they're going to come out with classes that fit with those eras. And maybe maybe the War Witch doesn't really fit in this more modern era that they may come out with. So they'll have a whole new set of classes that they come out with.
Yeah. So there isn't a lot on the terms of like describing like rules and let's get into how actions work and action economy and spell casting, because it's all very simple. This was created with the belief that like you should be able to pick it up and read the rules and very quickly jump into the game. And that's again what I think a lot of systems need to go back to. So if you're trying to bring your family into the tabletop role-playing world universe, and you're trying to figure out, what system do I start with? Do I start with White Wolf, or do I start with, D&D second edition, or do I start with Pathfinder? Well, no, you start with BattleSauce. Go pick up BattleSauce.
You need to cook yourself up a serving of BattleSauce.
Yes. So with that being said, hopefully go out, grab yourself a slice of BattleSauce, and just have a blast.
So, Steve, you got anything you want to put in on that?
So Jared had mentioned, I was trying to mention this before. So obviously we had mentioned that it's 54 cards. So normally when you buy a deck of cards, like regular deck of cards, like, deck of cards, they usually come with these special cards. Like there's a Joker here, and then there's this other special card. These cards are actually important. This is why it's 54 cards. As Jared mentioned, each character makes a special move. And when you pull one of these special cards out, this is when you can use your special move. And you can use it to instantly kill an enemy. You can have your super move kind of pop off and do whatever it does.
The other
cool thing, the other cool thing is, bad for the players, but the monsters get these too. So the monster pulls the Joker, he's going to crit your face. He's going to do something special too, which I always thought was a cool mechanic of not everything is relegated to a die roll. There is some control that you have and knowledge of what's going to come up and what's already been used. So it's a very ingenious system.
Like I said, go pick up a slice of this BattleSauce. Go grab it. It's currently free on their website. And show some love when you go grab it. When you play, think of Steve and myself. So from all of us here at Nothing Ventured, Nothing Game, we want to say we love rolling dice, giving advice with a little bit of that New York spice. Say goodbye, Steve.
Later.